2016 campaign. Joining me right now is a member of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, a Democrat from Illinois. Congressman, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Kate.
I just want to get your reaction to, first, the Roger Stone indictment.
I think these are very serious allegations, and regardless of what the White House says, I believe, and I think a lot of folks believe, that now we're starting to see allegations that do relate to conspiracy and collusion. The second issue is this is the second time now that the Mueller folks have indicted somebody because of lying to Congress, and that's a very serious felony. And I think that anybody who comes before the Intel Committee or any other committee of Congress, including the Oversight Committee on which I sit, have to know that you have to tell the full truth, or you're going to face similar consequences. Well,
and to that point, I mean, House Intel would be the committee now to deal with the developments on the congressional side of this investigation. I mean, the indictment extensively cites the interview that Stone gave to the House Intelligence Committee, and his efforts to get Randy Credico not give an interview to House Intelligence. You weren't on the committee at that time, but now, how does the Intelligence Committee, what does the Intelligence Committee do with this new information? What do you want to see happen?
Well, first of all, I believe the Intelligence Committee is going to release all the transcripts that Mr. Mueller requests related to all the interviews with different witnesses. In part because, as we've seen, Mr. Mueller is very interested in knowing what was said to the Intelligence Committee and whether any other witnesses lied. With regard to other actions, I think Chairman Schiff has mentioned this before. I think the Intel Committee is going to do everything in its power to continue its investigation of this Russia affair and to produce a report for the American people to see.
One line in the indictment I want to ask you about, it was after the first release of DNC emails. It reads this: a senior Trump campaign official was directed to contact Stone about any additional releases and what other damaging information Organization 1, which is WikiLeaks, had regarding the Clinton campaign. When you hear that someone in the Trump campaign was directed to reach out to Stone about future releases, what does that mean? What does that mean to you that Mueller put that line in the indictment?
That's a very curious line. We don't know, A, who actually did the directing, and B, I don't know who was being directed. However, you know that WikiLeaks is alleged to have been furnished hacked emails by the Russians. And now we know that there was a linkage between the Trump organization, or I should say the Trump campaign, and WikiLeaks via Roger Stone. The question is whether WikiLeaks was instructed, or any communications were directed to them by the Trump campaign with regard to how to use those hacked emails that were provided by the Russians.
See that, and we don't
I would
know
believe
that,
that
in the
would be conspiracy.
And we don't have
we
that
haven't
in this
seen
indictment.
the information about that. Correct.
Right.
We haven't seen that in the indictment.
Is that and you said it, that would lead to conspiracy if that would be true.
Yes, ma'am.
But that's not what we see in here. And from Roger Stone's attorney, in response to this morning, he says that Roger Stone is vindicated because you don't see any conspiracy charge, i.e. collusion, coming out. That's not what he's charged with right now. Does he have a point?
Only insofar as those words are not in there. However, I think that the question is, what do other witnesses and what do those people who were doing the directing and the people who were being directed from the campaign have to say as well? And I think we know that Mr. Mueller is not going to leave any stone unturned, so to speak.
That would be, yeah, that would be the words. That term is forever changed with Roger Stone being part of this conversation. The White House today said that this has nothing to do with the president. This has nothing to do with the White House. And there is nothing in this indictment that contradicts that. And that came from Sarah Sanders. Does Sarah Sanders have a point?
Well, I think that, again, we don't see the words White House. We don't see the words Donald Trump in this indictment. But I think that all the fingers and all the arrows are starting to get pointed in that direction. And we have to see, again, what do Trump campaign officials who were supposedly referenced in this particular indictment have to say. And of course, we don't know the communications between the president and Mr. Stone.
Do you have one Trump campaign official in mind that you would like to see, in light of this indictment, come before your committee to answer some questions?
No, I don't have anyone in particular in mind. We know Paul Manafort, of course, was the chairman of the campaign.
Right.
I don't know whether the timing coincides exactly with his tenure, but as you know, there are a lot of other people on the Trump campaign.
Yeah, a lot of people that fit the bill of a senior Trump campaign official. You are also,
yes,
you're on
yes,
two very key committees, considering all the conversations we're having right now, Congressman. The House Oversight Committee, you also sit on that committee. Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's longtime personal attorney. This week, he was given a subpoena to appear before the Senate Intelligence Committee after he declined to appear before House Oversight, your committee. Do you think Oversight, or even House Intel for that matter, will be subpoenaing him to appear? Do you think they should?
I think that Chairman Cummings of the Oversight Committee and his staff are currently working with Michael Cohen and his attorneys to assure their family's safety, because, as you know, the reason why he did not want to appear before the Oversight Committee on February 7th was because of threats to his family. And so I think that he will appear before the Oversight Committee at some point, in part because, as you know, the Oversight Committee ultimately does have subpoena power, but I'm hoping that they can voluntarily appear, and I expect them to do so.
Do you think that will happen before he is expected to report to prison in the beginning of March?
I hope so. You know, I think that we need to allow him to tell his full story to the American people in an open hearing, and I think the Oversight Committee is the right place to do it.
But I do question, what are the assurances, if you will, that Elijah Cummings or anyone in Congress can give Michael Cohen if what he's really afraid of is threats coming from, he says, threats to his family coming from the president and his personal attorney?
What I know is what I've read and heard in the press with regard to those threats. Apparently they are specific threats. I don't know the exact nature of those threats, but apparently that is what is being discussed between the committee and Michael Cohen. But I just want to make one thing very clear. You know, these intimidation tactics are really mob tactics, and they have no place in our system of